This is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and Tim. It's time to roll out. We got the Chicago Bears coming into the MetLife on Sunday. Want to talk about Neal Thibodeaux. Want to talk about Evan Neal. Want to talk about a couple things that have been irking me. Yes, and things irk me. But I want to give a big shout out to all the subscribers and the ones that have reached out to Black Rifle Coffee to try to get me a sponsorship. I got to reach out to. I got to give a big thanks to the Rover who actually sent an email. I also have to give a big shout out to Hardy Ryder who also sent an email. I got to give a big shout out to Luis, who also went and bought some pumpkin spice, and Giants Among Men, and there was one other person who I cannot remember, but I got to give a big shout out to them who also went on the website and purchased some of the pumpkin spice coffee, the greatest coffee in the world, the nectar of the gods. I'm drinking it right as we speak, so big shout out to that. You know what? It's just one of those things, man, that you just can't say enough about the people that support this channel, because you know what?
Autobots.
And that was the wrong sound effect. That was not my showing of support sound effect. I have to give my showing of support sound effect.
I don't know what the fuck you just said, little kid, but you special, man. You reached out and you touched it by the heart.
You're all special to me. You all reached out. And I love everyone. I want to talk about Neal Thibodeaux and Evan Neal because I see some crap on Twitter. And I know I have to stay off the cesspool of the world known as Twitter, that fans are already throwing in the towel, that the fans are already saying Neal Thibodeaux and both Evan Neal were a mistake. They're already busts after one game, after maybe 20 plus snaps. Oh, dear Lord. Please relax. Let them work themselves, and in Neal Thibodeaux's case, let him work himself back into shape. He's been out for 4 weeks. Let him work himself into playing shape. Please. Same with Evan Neal. Evan Neal has played 3 games in the pros. These are the same people that probably wanted to dump our old buddy Andrew Thomas after his rookie season, but now are in love with him. Dear Lord, when did the intelligent level of certain fans just drop considerably? It's been a hiccup. Same thing with Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson, hasn't even, made a handful of plays before he got injured, but let's see what happens before we call him a bust. People are sitting there, and I loved it because someone pointed out on the stream yesterday, and it kind of freaked me out. Potentially, we could be waiting half a decade before we figure out what Daniel Jones is, but you are throwing the baby out with the bathwater in reference to Evan Neal and Neal Thibodeaux because they did not play well, because they struggled a little, because they did things that, I don't know, rookies do. We need to be smart, and I haven't given this speech in a while, but we need to be smarter than this, and not all of us. It's a very small segment, and it's usually those that complain the loudest get the most attention. So it's a very small segment that is doing this. But we just have to remember these poor guys are rookies. You got Kayvon, who's got 20 plus snaps under his belt. And if that's the same scenario you're going with, then we got to get rid of Azeez Ojulari. Please, just relax. They're going to be fine. Even Andrew Thomas has confidence that Evan Neal will bounce back. He had a bad game. He had a bad game as a rookie against an all-pro rusher. I'm not upset with that. Sorry, not upset with that whatsoever. What I am a little upset with is the play calling. I talked about this, and I briefly touched on this.
That's what she said.
Say that 10 times fast during the stream. I don't understand how Saquon Barkley only gets 18 touches, only 14 carries, 4 receptions, 18 total touches. He needs at least 25 to 30 touches a game for the Giants offense to hum. And for the 3rd week in a row, we did not turn to Saquon until the 3rd quarter, until the second half. And I don't get why, because we've done this now in 3 separate games. We wait until the 3rd quarter to get him involved. Let's get him involved. Let's get him involved from Jump Street. Let's get him involved right away. You do not set up the run with the pass. You set up the pass. You do not set up the pass for the run. You use the run to set up the pass. So consistently throwing Daniel Jones, it's just not working, considering the fact that he's not looking downfield and all he's doing is checking down. Is that by design? I don't know. I literally can't tell you. But what I can tell you is when you're not using your best offensive weapon until the third quarter, there's a problem. If you see your line is having an issue protecting your quarterback, you check out as a quarterback. You check out to a run. You audible out. Or as an offensive coordinator, you say, okay, the defensive line is being overly aggressive against our offensive line because they know they're getting pressure. Let's run a draw. Let's run a delayed handoff. Let's take advantage of the over-aggressiveness of the defense. There's nothing wrong with that. That's probably what you should do. But when your second half adjustment only consists of running Saquon Barkley more, that's a problem. I have an issue with that. And I don't have a lot of issues with the Giant coaching staff right now because you know what? You're 2-1. You're an unexpected 2-1. You may be an ugly 2-1, but like I said, there's no column in the one-loss column that says ugly win. No. But the problem is you have to make adjustments. You have to do things that will allow you to take advantage of the over-aggressiveness of the defense. And if you're having an issue protecting the pass, what's the most logical thing to go to? Go to the run. You go to the run. And then if they're going to put 7-8 in boxes, stop the run. Then you go to play action. It's not a crazy thought process. What was a crazy thought process was I was listening to the radio, WFAN, and Boomer Esiason had mentioned that potentially trading Saquon Barkley. I don't think that's a crazy idea. Basically what he says, if Saquon Barkley can do what he's doing and he isn't traded by the trade deadline, and that's a serious thing that I think the Buffalo Bills would love to look at. Saquon is probably as good now as he'll ever be in the NFL. Why would the Giants keep him? Especially if they get a reasonable good draft pick. The Bills would love to have a top-end running back and give the Giants a second or third round pick. You would have to consider it if you were the Giants. I mentioned yesterday on the stream that you could probably get like a 3 and a 6 for Saquon. And that 3 could probably turn into a 2 if he plays X amount of games or if the other team makes the playoffs. And that is something you would have to look at because if you don't feel that Saquon is going to be worth signing a long-term contract for the next in 2023, you're going to have to move on and at least get something for him. We've talked about this a million times before about getting something for players that you are not going to have value for in 2023. And I don't think it's a crazy idea. I mentioned it on the stream yesterday. Just move on from him and get something of value. If you can get a second for him, I would jump at it. You get a 3 and a 6, I would jump on that as well. Because if he's not going to be in your master plan in 2023, you got to move on from him. You have to do what the smart thing that our old buddy Deshane did with Daniel Jones and not pick up the option. You have to. And then if you don't pick up the option of Daniel Jones, you have to look at moving on from Saquon Barkley and picking up and getting assets. And then moving a different direction in 2023 with your running back situation, which is easy to do because you can find a running back later in the draft. That's not a problem. That's not an issue. But moving on from him is probably what we're going to have to end up doing. Also want to just briefly touch on the wide receivers. You see it now that the Giants probably this week only is not going to go out and find a wide receiver. That they are probably going to stick with what they have in house, which is the smart thing to do because honestly, are you going to bring you have a short week? Are you really going to bring someone in this late in the game and try to bring them in, get them into the lineup unless you bring them back to someone like Alex Bachman? But we have to stop the David Sills experiment. Please, can we just stop it? You got to roll Darius Slayton out there. You got to roll Kenny G out there. Hopefully you got to get Kadarius Toney back. But can we just stop the David Sills experiment, please? I am tired of people that are fans of the Eagles or the Commanders or the Cowboys, and I got some Dolphin friends and some Lions friends that make fun of me because we are starting David Sills. And they're all waiting for the wrong way David Sills sound effect. Because they all know looking outside the Giant bubble that he is not a starting NFL wide receiver. Hell, he can't even play special teams. He can't return kicks. Richie James, he's like Popeye. I've said it before. He is what he is. He's a fifth-year pro who can return kicks, who can return punts, and he'll get you about 50 yards a game receiving, and maybe turn around and break one. Which is fine. Which is what we need. Which is exactly what we need to have. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want from a guy that should be a third or fourth wide receiver. He should be able to get you some yardage and play special teams. David Sills just cannot do those things. It's time to end the experiment. It is getting horrifying to see him on the field at times now. And and you hope, and I don't think it'll happen because I don't think Shane and Dable are like that. Because we've seen them move on from guys. But I also don't want to get them enamored with him because he's a practice player. And we've said this a million times before. There is a level between the major leagues and AAA. I always call it quadruple A because it's guys that are too good to be AAA but not good enough to be in the majors. That's what David Sills is. He is a quadruple A player. So if we could just please stop that, I'll be extremely happy with that. We also got a big show coming up today with the Pod 3121 podcast with OGR Sports, talking about all that fun stuff, doing all those fun things. We're going to be talking about the Giants and the Cowboys. Briefly, we're going to jump into the Bears game. And for those that are online Big Blue members and followers of the podcast, bonus clip. Stay tuned for the bonus clip. All for everyone else from the YouTube channel, this is Tim with Online Big Blue. We'll bring you the best of New York Giants sports talk entertainment. And as always, if you could like, if you subscribe, if you can ring that bell here in the means, that'd be awesome.